welcome to another episode of the Prescription for Better Living podcast. As always, I am Dr. Hernando Carter, your board certified internal medicine physician, your primary care extraordinaire. And this is the Prescription for Better Living podcast. Again, the Prescription for Better Living podcast discusses all things health and wellness in a hip and relatable way. Our objective is to promote health care literacy, to reduce healthcare disparities, and to increase health equity. This is the Prescription for Better Living podcast. Again, that song was produced by my son, Ellis Carter. Check him out, E. Casanova. He's streaming on all of your streaming platforms with his song Fallen. Well, this is episode 5. And let me say, if you've been hanging in there with us through all of the previous episodes, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're new to us and you're just finding out about this podcast, welcome, welcome, welcome. And you can go back and look at all of our previous episodes on our channel. We are also streaming for you audio podcasters via Spotify. You can find us there. And on Podbean, you can find us there. So we are at episode 5, and we've been covering a variety of topics as it relates to the healthcare model. But I felt it appropriate to kind of shift gears a little bit and talk to you about maybe something that may be a little bit of a heavier topic, and that's mental health. I think we need to talk about mental health because there is a huge stigma around mental health. It's almost a taboo topic, especially amongst generations that may fall into our generation. So if you're a 70s baby or born even before that, you may not be as open to talking about mental health. Certainly, some of the younger generation today are more comfortable with talking about it because the topic of mental health is more mainstream now. There's less taboo. People are opening up and talking more about their mental health challenges. But when I grew up and with others who grew up even older than I am, those are certain things you didn't talk about, especially if you were a male and especially if you were a Black male. You were expected to be strong at all times. You were expected to display an aura of strength, of toughness, and not to cry, not to admit your vulnerabilities. And so, what that leads to is unhealthy coping mechanisms. Unhealthy coping mechanisms. And so, we need to talk about mental health. And the reason why we need to talk about it is in order to reduce the stigma of something, you have to normalize talking about that thing. So, we're going to talk about mental health, particularly depression, anxiety. And then, as we go along the road, we're going to talk about tools on how to address mental health challenges. We'll talk about resources that are available. And we're going to really break down, particularly this subject of therapy. How many of you have a therapist out there? Well, we're going to get into all that in the Prescription for Better Living podcast. But the first thing that you need to know that if you or someone you love has suffered with any type of mental health challenge, there are resources out there available for you, and there is help. One thing that I want to highlight to begin is the National Crisis Hotline. That's 988. Similar to 911, you dial 911 when you have an emergency. You can dial 988 in a mental health crisis. But also, even if you're not the person having the mental health crisis, let's say someone has confided in you that they're having some challenges and you're afraid that they may hurt themselves, you can call 988 if they won't call, and you can be guided on how to help that person. You dial 988, you'll be connected with mental health professionals, licensed mental health professionals that are experienced with treating all types of mental health challenges. And so if you yourself are experiencing a challenge, there's someone that you can talk to. They'll call and follow up with you. Also, they can help connect you with local mental health resources. But again, maybe there's a friend, family member, loved one, fraternity brother, sorority sister, someone that you're worried about, and you can't get them to call. You don't really know how to help them. You don't really have the words to say to them. Then you could call 988 and they'll give you help and guidance. I recently counseled a friend to do this for someone, and he gave me some great feedback. He did this. He called 988 on behalf of this other friend, and he was just blown away by just the care and time and professionalism of that mental health professional, really giving him some helpful hints and tools on how to help his friend. The mental health professional called back to follow up with my friend to see how things had gone with that interaction. And then the mental health professional offered to stay on a three-way call with them. They conferenced him in, and so it turned out to be a very positive thing. So you can call for yourself, you can call for someone else, and that's there for you. It's free to you. This is paid for by our tax dollars. This is a federal thing. And so you should know that it's there for you to use. Also, there are some other sites you can visit online. NAMI, that's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, at NAMI.org, NAMI.org. And they have all kind of materials there that you can read online or download. They have chapters all around the nation in all states. They can connect you with local resources there. They have YouTube videos online. They have a podcast that I've actually um, participated in, and that I have myself done interviews for. So you should check out NAMI. But let's talk about uh, mental health challenges, particularly the more common ones that you hear about, such as depression, anxiety, but there's also post traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. There's substance use disorder, and those substances could be alcohol, substances could be prescription drugs, illicit drugs, could be marijuana. But so substance use disorder is also something that falls under the umbrella of a mental health challenge. So you're not alone. It's a very common thing. 1 in 5 US adults experience mental illness each year. And this is according to, again, NAMI. 1 in 20 US adults experience serious mental illness each year. Serious mental illness each year. 1 in 6 US youth aged 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year. 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins by age 14, and 75% by age 24. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people age 10 to 14. So this touches people of all ages, of all ethnicities, male, female, transgender, non-binary. It affects everyone. You should know that almost 23% of US adults experienced mental illness in 2021. That equates to about 57.8 million people. Break it down by race when you're talking about prevalence. When you're talking about mental illness, the prevalence of mental illness, non-Hispanic Asian people had a prevalence of mental illness of 16%. Non-Hispanic Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islanders had a prevalence of 18%. Non-Hispanic Black or African American, 21%. Hispanic or Latino, 20%. Non-Hispanic White, 23.9%. Here's an interesting fact. Prevalence of mental illness in non-Hispanic mixed or multiracial individuals, almost 35%. And then what are some of the more common mental health disorders? Uh, of that mental health disorder breakdown, 8% were major depressive episodes. Over 19% were anxiety. Bipolar disorder made up 2.8%. Major post-traumatic stress disorder issues made up 3.6%. So you can see that this is something that is very, very prevalent. Now, there's a disparity in terms of who received treatment for mental illness. 47% of US adults with mental illness received treatment in 2021. 50% of US youth between age 6 and 17 with mental health disorders received treatment in 2016. The annual treatment rates among US adults with any mental illness by demographic group, non-Hispanic whites made up 52%, non-Hispanic mixed multiracial made up 52%, non-Hispanic Black or African American made up 39%. So there's a gap there in terms of who received treatment. And I believe some of that has to do with, again, just the stigma around mental illness. It also has to do with an access problem. There's an access problem when you talk about accessing mental health professionals, particularly culturally competent mental health professionals. We have an access problem. Mental health is serious, y'all. I'm sure if I were to ask you that are watching or listening today, how many of you have either personally experienced a mental health challenge or someone that you know and or love have experienced mental health challenge? I would venture to say that none of you would be able to say zero. All of you have. In my fraternity, we are trying to take this on, head on with an initiative called Are You Okay? And we're asking the question of our fraternity brothers, are you okay? Well, why are we doing that? It's because that each of us have personally known fraternity brothers that have battled with depression, anxiety, substance use disorder. And unfortunately, over the years, we've lost too many fraternity brothers who have died by suicide. They've died from suicide. We don't say committed suicide because this is an illness. Just like you don't you don't commit a heart attack, you don't commit cancer. So, you die from cancer or you die from a heart attack. And so those individuals died from suicide. We've had too many. In our community, we have too many. And we have too many people who suffer in silence. And so that's why we are going to tackle this topic. So let's normalize some terms. When we talk about mental illness for the purposes of this podcast, we're mostly talking about depression and or anxiety. And we'll try to make sure that we are clear and specific on whatever illness we are discussing. But for the most part, those are the big ones we're dealing with. And then you have to ask yourself, what is depression? Well, depression is more than just a feeling of sadness that we all get from time to time. Particularly, for example, if you've experienced some sort of loss, there's a period of sadness that people feel. So it's more than just being down in the dumps of blue every now and again. Depression is something that can inhibit your activity of daily living. It can give you what I like to explain to my patients is I describe them as the don't want tos. It's called anhedonia. So you could lose interest in things that you normally like to do, whatever hobby that may be. You normally like to listen to music and you don't care to do that anymore. Go shopping, you don't care to do that anymore. Play golf or basketball. Social isolation, you don't want to be around anybody or hang with your friends anymore. Can cause mood swings, changes in your personality, more irritability, can cause you to lose sleep or sleep too much. Could cause you to lose your appetite and not eat or eat too much. Feelings of hopelessness, things will never get better. Feelings of worthlessness, I can never do anything right. Nobody loves me. I'm a failure. Those types of absolute types of thoughts and statements. Suicidal ideation, thinking that maybe life would be better for everyone, including you, if you weren't here. Not wanting to wake up in the morning or not wanting to get out of the bed. Anxiety. And anxiety is more than just being nervous from time to time, right? About something specifically, but the type of anxiety I'm talking about is, again, overwhelming, can interfere with things in life, can cause panic attacks, physical symptoms, heart racing, feeling as if you're going to die, trouble breathing, difficulty sleeping, difficulty focusing, always worried, always worried that something's going on in your body when you have no evidence that there is. Every little symptom, you think you have something catastrophic going on. So, depression and anxiety can cause mental and emotional symptoms, but they can also cause physical symptoms. Fatigue, low energy, pain. Depression can cause pain. upset stomach, abdominal pain, changes in your bowel habits, problems with sexual function, erectile dysfunction, decreased libido, that's decreased desire. So that's what we are talking about. So I'm going to be transparent with you because on this podcast, our goal is to be straight up, to help people, and to break through maybe where others haven't been able to break through. And I will tell you that for years, I have battled with anxiety. For years, I battled with depression. Depression and anxiety that worsened over certain parts of my life, got better over others, so they waxed and waned. But I suffered nonetheless. And for a while, I suffered in silence. And I didn't really share with anyone what was going on with me. I finally shared in medical school when I was having some challenges with depression, being overwhelmed with family, with my wife, and with my mother in law. And I got support then. And it got better for a while. And then after medical school, after residency, while in practice, had a tragic life event happen. My father passed away very suddenly. And then the depression and anxiety flared back up. But this time, it didn't subside. And it caused things in me such as irritability, sleeping problems, anxiety, panic attacks, caused me to withdraw at home. At work and out in the public, I was fine because I was wearing the mask. But by the time I got home, I was exhausted from wearing the mask. And so I would withdraw some until I was confronted by family. And then I had to own up and fess up to what was going on. Another thing was very helpful is at my church, my pastor taught a whole sermon series about mental health challenges and normalize this concept of it's okay to have a therapist. It's okay to take medication and get treatment. Very helpful. So I can say now that I'm 100% better. I have a therapist and I'll always have one. And I advocate everyone having a therapist, whether you think you have mental health challenges or not. Therapists are very helpful because just talking to a therapist can help reduce your stress. After you talk to a therapist about your problems, you can just feel better. Therapists are objective in that they don't judge you. They're not like some people in your life that may judge what you say is on your mind or in your heart. You can just have what I call just vocal diarrhea, just whatever's here just comes out. And that helps you feel better and they won't judge you. So, therapy is therapeutic. That's why it's called therapy. It just makes you feel better. Therapists are bound by confidentiality laws. And so what you tell them stays with them. You don't have to worry about your business being out there in the street. Therapists are also trained to help you work through issues. So they can help you identify things that we call triggers, things that set you off. They can help you discover what the root cause is, can go all the way back to childhood and find out maybe the first thing that you remember that maybe set you down this path to respond to things the way that you do. So I advocate for everybody to have a therapist. The other thing I advocate for is if your doctor recommends medication for your depression or anxiety, don't be afraid to take it because it can be very helpful, especially if your symptoms are interfering with you in your day to day life in some way. So don't close your mind to it, open up to it. Again, I have a therapist, have regular appointments with my therapist. Very helpful. So I wanted to be transparent because I felt that in order for me to maybe help one person, I needed to be vulnerable and let you peek behind the curtain, take off the mask, and let you know that if you need help, seek help, talk to someone, let them know that you're struggling. Again, you can dial 988 and talk to someone for yourself, and they can connect you with other resources. Or if you're worried about someone, you can dial 988 for them. You can, again, go online for online resources, NAMI.org, NAMI.org. Also, there is an organization that focuses on Black mental health. It's called the Black Mental Health Alliance. There's a Black Psychiatric Association, and they have a directory of uh, Black psychiatrists, particularly if you're African American and you're looking for someone that is a kind of a cultural and identity match for you. So you can check those things out. So this is where we're going. This episode 5 was just to introduce this. And first, let's say, hey, let's get rid of the stigma. And we get rid of the stigma by normalizing, just talking about it. We're going to introduce concepts and we're going to really take a deep dive into this therapy thing. And to let you know that if you are suffering from mental illness, whether it be depression, anxiety, whatever it is, no, you're not crazy. No, you're not. And we want to throw that word crazy out of our vocabulary. Again, this is Dr. Hernando Carter, your primary care extraordinaire, coming to you from the Prescription for Better Living podcast, where we discuss all things health and wellness in a hip and relatable way with the goal of reducing healthcare disparities, promoting health equity. If you found something in this episode helpful, do a few things for me. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment on the video, share it with everyone you know, shout it from the mountaintops. Hallelujah. Dr. Carter is here. Until next time, you can contact us at contact@rxforbetterliving.org. Holla when I holla. Dr. Carter, out.